Today we have another young Indian with us as part of the Voice of the Young series. Hello, everybody. Good to be with you once again. We have with us Shubro Bhattacharya, an aspiring economist who has recently received some very encouraging news. Let's listen to him.
Thank you so much, Subodh. It's a great privilege to be here. So I think I would begin with the story of like how I got interested into economics and how I'm doing what I'm doing right now. So yeah, just to like about my present, I am working as a pre-doctoral researcher right now with a team of professors. So my lead mentor is Professor Nishit Prakash, who's in Northeastern University. And my co-PIs right now are Girja Borkar, Sofia Amaral, both from the World Bank, and Mika Suyachi from Princeton. So it's like a dream team I'm working with.
Yeah,
A once in a
totally.
lifetime of, yeah.
Yeah, it's a dream team,
And
right?
yeah, yeah,
Totally. I wish I could be there. I was young
yeah.
enough
So
to be hired as a research assistant by them. Okay, go ahead.
yeah. Yeah, so it's like a dream project I'm working on. So I cannot go into the specifics of the project because it's still in the working paper stage. But uh, just the overview that it's an RCT on the Bihar police, and it's like a very novel intervention using
Okay, wait,
theater and
wait,
applied.
wait, wait.
Yeah,
RCT is randomized control trial.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
in
these
case
days
people
it's so
don't.
much in the lingo that yeah, I tend to skip that clarification. But thank you.
All right.
So it's a randomized study, and it involves an intervention which has very novel pedagogical techniques of theater and experiential learning. And the main goal is to see that how the behavior of the police officers can be geared towards, being more sensitive towards gender-based violence. So that's the nitty-gritties of the project, like the overview. And how I got here is very interesting. So uh, when I was doing my master's and MPhil in the University of Paris one, Pantheon Sorbonne. In short, it's called Sorbonne in France. So there I was doing the master's in economics and an MPhil degree in development economics. So I was working on a thesis which tried to establish the colonial institutions and how it persisted to the contemporary times. So the colonial institution on which I focused on during my thesis was that how the land tenure system, basically the zamindari system, Bahalwari, Rayatwari, how these systems, which were implemented by the British during that time, how that persisted to the contemporary era. So now that work has already been done by Banerjee and Iyer in a landmark AER paper. AER is American Economic Review, again, just to clarify. Yeah, so it that work has been done, but what I am specifically looking at is how the criminal politicians, firstly, how they contest in the elections in these land tenure systems, like the formal land tenure systems, and whether they get mandate or not. So these are two like different aspects. That firstly, you have a greater supply of politicians in like those regions, and whether you have and whether they get mandate or not. So that's what I was studying. And the data set on which I was working on was, of course, they borrowed from Nishit Prakash, who is also my advisor, as I said. And he has a very nice JD paper, Journal of Development Economics paper in 2017, which studied these criminal politicians. So it's a very clean data set, which I got from him, thankfully. So I was working on that data set, and I was very interested in his work, in the research he was doing. So then I got to know, after my master's, I got to know that yes, there is this opportunity to work with him in a project in Bihar, right? And I got to know about this from Twitter, actually. So these days, econ Twitter has become like a big thing for networking, and you can reach out to the professors directly. So I got to know about this opportunity via Twitter. So that's how I learned about it. And this first study in which I was involved in was on vaccine hesitancy in rural Bihar. So that was like uh, my introduction to Bihar, that first project. And I was working with Professor Jason Abelak and Mushfiq Mubarak also in that project. And that was a very fascinating project. And it was in 10 districts of Bihar. So I got to actually visit those villages and interact with the households. So that was a very fascinating experience. And uh, to be honest, growing up in Delhi, and then
Yeah.
uh, it's like a bubble. It's like a
Yeah.
bubble.
It is.
And
It is.
and when I went to Bihar, I definitely got a shock
Mm.
that like the standard of living is like completely different. So I think there's a very famous quote by Joanne Robinson, right? Like what you think about India, the opposite is also true. So
Yes.
I just got to live that. I got
Yes.
to live that there. And just briefly telling you about my background is how I got interested in development economics is uh, actually I was doing my first master's degree in Gokhale Institute of Politics and Economics, and that degree was in international business and finance, right? And while I was studying
But
that, I
before
realized
that,
that
that was a
yeah,
master's degree or bachelor's?
that was a master's degree.
So
So
where's
I
the
did
bachelor's?
technic. Yeah, so I did my bachelor's in. Sorry, just messed up the chronology. So
Yeah.
firstly, I did my bachelor's in the University of Mumbai
Yeah.
firstly, and then I went to Gokhale Institute of Politics and Economics to do my first master's. So
Right.
this was in international business and finance. So
Yeah.
that time I honestly didn't have much idea about the the academia or the the research world in general. I just had very simple ambitions of just getting a degree in business and finance because that seemed quite lucrative, and I thought I'll just get a job like a data analyst or financial manager or something. But once I started studying the curriculum, I realized that let's put it that way, that I got completely disillusioned by that. So I wanted to not do that, right?
Okay.
And of course, I think that also coincided with my introduction to the literature like poor economics and like like some of the Sen's work, that whole development economics literature, which I think a typical Indian graduate student gets introduced to at some point in time. So the same thing happened. And I found it very fascinating. So what happened was that I think it was the summer of 2018, and everyone those who want to apply for the jobs, usually they have some internships or something. And
Yeah.
during that time I realized that I would not do an internship, and it was very ambitious of me. And of course I had one a colleague of mine who supported me in this endeavor. So we thought that we would just go to the slums of Delhi and just do some scoping work, that let's see how it goes. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, that living in Delhi, in South Delhi, it was a bubble.
Yeah.
And I just had to, I thought that I need to know all of these things to be able to do my research better and to understand the policies better. So that was my first introduction to like development economics and also field experience versus. So
Yeah.
for 2 to 3 months, I visited like slums of Delhi, and then ended up doing a study on the Mohalla clinics of Delhi. So
Yeah.
so just for your information, like for the listeners also, Mohalla clinic is like a community health clinic, and this scheme was introduced by the Delhi government around 2016 or something. So my research objective was very simple, just to go around the slums of Delhi, just to do some scoping work on how the health access and health behavior is in these communities, and just to gauge the out of pocket expenditures of the households. So it was a very simple study, but then we ended up developing, I wouldn't say a very sophisticated questionnaire, but I think I'm still proud of that because it was
Okay.
kind of my first work. And we ended up publishing that paper as well in a journal of community medicine, which is not a traditional econ journal. But still, we ended up collecting data of around 500 households across like uh, 5 or 6 districts of Delhi. So yeah, that was like my first introduction to the world of research, and let's say the other side, of the world, where like the haves and have-nots can be differentiated, right? So
Okay,
that
let's have
was
the result.
my, yeah,
Let's have the
yeah,
results of this study because it's a very interesting topic. So,
yeah,
what are your
yeah.
conclusions?
Yeah, so that was, again, as I said, was very simplistic. It was, let's say, not a causal study as we know now, but some of the key takeaways were that the in the community, like this mohalla clinics, the waiting times were significantly lower, and then you also had, like, I think the out of pocket expenditure dramatically decreased there, because the thing is, when we calculate the costs of accessing healthcare, private is of course a different ballgame, but then even the waiting times were almost a day in, even for primary healthcare reasons, in the public hospitals in Delhi. So you have to account for the wage that is lost, you have to account for the waiting times, you have to account for the travel costs, etc. So accounting for all of that, I definitely remember that there was a dramatic fall in all of these measures. And also, we collected data on the, I think, the satisfaction in terms of like how the doctor treats the patient or not, how much time is dedicated per patient. So on the top of my head, of course, I don't remember the specific results, but all I remember is that across all the indicators, the Mohalla clinic was definitely like performing much better as compared to both public health clinics as well as private health clinics, which were offering the primary healthcare services. So these were the key takeaways. And we
Okay,
also wrote a small article in
let me ask you a
EPW.
question that you may
Yeah,
not have answered, or did you
yeah, yeah,
see
yeah.
any obvious weaknesses
Obvious weaknesses in.
in the Mohalla clinic system? As an outsider, you went in and could you say, oh
Yeah,
my God, they can do this better? I mean, maybe you didn't
yeah.
have that. I'm just asking that did you?
Yeah. There were a few instances where I thought it could have been done better. For example, I think it was, I don't remember the locality. My guess is it
Yeah,
was near Wazirpur, that one mohalla clinic, where like we interviewed the households, and some of them were also from the scheduled caste communities, and they said like the doctor is very good but refuses to touch us,
yeah,
right? So refuses to make contact.
yeah.
So that's when I realized, okay, there is of course a caste dynamics which is playing here, because
Okay.
yeah, so the doctor refuses to touch. In many of the clinics where they claim to have testing facilities, they did not have, right? In some of the mohalla clinics also, they said that I think they promised free medicines or something, and it was not there. So it was a hit and miss in some places, but overall, I think I was pretty impressed, especially for the fact that in these communities, what is, I think it's still prevalent, is that there are these local doctors, and I think the informal term would be a quack, and as they called it in the colloquial language, Bengali doctor. That's what they call. So yeah, so it was ubiquitous, like prevalent everywhere, and in those localities where there was a mohalla clinic, of course, I don't have a causal estimate of that, but it's purely based on field interviews that they definitely substituted their visits to these informal practitioners to a formal healthcare, which I think was very, very promising
Yeah.
per se.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Great. Let's move on. Thank you so much. It's
yeah,
very good to get this viewpoint on access, and looks like the design itself in abstract terms was fine, but implementation
yeah,
was spotty. Okay.
yeah,
But
yeah.
let's go on. Let's go on. Beyond this, what next?
Beyond this, I think I would like to talk about my experiences in Bihar in
Oh,
general, because
yes. I
now,
want to hear
so
them.
now, yeah, so now it's been what, more than 1.5 years since I am in Bihar, involved in different studies. So, and the first question that people end up asking me is that why is Bihar not growing? What is the
Yeah.
problem with Bihar?
Yeah.
What are the peculiarities that you see?
Yeah.
And as a social scientist, as an aspiring economist, of course, I try to answer these questions, and I try to spot, some hints
Yeah.
from my surroundings, right? And one thing which I would say, the proximate cause of underdevelopment of Bihar, it's completely my hypothesis of the proximate cause of underdevelopment is the lack of general levels of trust in Bihar. So I have, of course, like wherever I have traveled in India and abroad as well, there is poverty. There is lack of infrastructure, and there are also other landlocked areas, as Bihar claims. There are also other regions in India where there is this caste problem.
Hmm.
So all of these problems are there. There are, of course, if you talk about the historical reasons, since that's a topic I've been working on, is also like the
Hmm.
zamindari system, but that zamindari system was also in several other parts of India,
Right.
right? So the story which explains the underdevelopment of Bihar is, I think, it's a bit more nuanced. It's very complex. So I think there is no simple answer to this. So hence, I would like to talk about the proximate cause. And if you allow me, I would like to share a picture with you, which is very
Yeah,
interesting.
sure. We'd love
And
to
then,
see the picture.
yeah,
But
and
let me add a
yeah,
comment before you do that,
yeah,
because I developed this terminology when I wrote my India book.
okay,
What you are saying, okay, first, lack of trust, you may know, this is low social capital.
yeah,
I'm now
exactly,
going into general academic talk, right?
yeah,
Moving
yeah,
from the particular case to, and the lack of social capital is a well-known problem. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
But social capital itself, presence or absence, I put it as a part of what I called as meta-economic factors.
hmm,
Meta-economic factors are what you and I would call exogenous factors,
yeah,
exogenous
yeah,
variables. They are not
yeah,
economic variables. They're not
yeah, yeah,
economic factors, but they have important impact on the economic variables and the factors. So
yeah,
in Bihar, it's really that economic policy cannot work because the meta-economic factors are not right.
absolutely,
Right. So
absolutely.
I
So
just
yeah,
want to pontificate a little bit here
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah, yeah,
we find, and one of those is, of course, social capital. And social
yeah,
capital is just nothing but trust. And
yeah,
if the society doesn't have social capital, then one of the meta-economic factors is negative, right? And
yeah,
that's binding
absolutely.
problem. Okay, so
Yeah,
just
yeah,
to add to
yeah,
general framework for this. So Bihar actually
absolutely. Yeah,
has a terrible meta-economic factors. And you can, once you have the broad umbrella, you can put it in 2 or 3 different terms. So you
yeah,
can call them political economy, or you can call it social economy, or whatever.
yeah,
I just
yeah,
call it as meta-economic, beyond economics, but
yeah,
affecting economics. So let's hear
yeah,
from you on Bihar. I'm keen to hear.
yeah, yeah. So just can I?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, or maybe you can't share the screen. Uh, hang on for a second before I. Okay, now you can share your screen. I hope. Let's see if you get it.
Yes. Can
Yeah,
you
there
see
it
my
is.
screen?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
So
there.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I keep on clicking pictures of Patna, whatever I see, and this is like one interesting picture I saved for this talk, is because this thing really fascinated me, that we are living in an urban space, right? And how does a household like get milk delivered? Usually you buy packets of milk, and in the other places I have seen is that there is one person who just delivers milk to your place. But here something like fascinating which I saw was that the whole cow, literally the cow walks into your place and then they just take out the milk in front of you, right?
Wow.
So why is this happening, right? Like I ask myself, like, why does this person who's selling the milk has to undergo such an inefficient way of distributing milk, right? Because if the person just has like a shed where he takes out milk and distributes it to the other places, this person can make a lot of, like, of course, earn more money and reach out to more houses in one particular working day, right? But why does this person have to go through all this? So I thought this stems from a lack of trust, and then so that was my assumption, and then I started talking to some of these households who get this, and they said again. So they said that, yeah, like, we don't trust the milks which you get in the packets because there are chemicals, there are preservatives, fine, and also like the milk which the guys deliver from the cow sheds, that's also not good because that is also, they mix water, they mix other chemicals, so we don't trust that. So that is why we get this like milk delivered to our place, where in front of us we can see like the cow giving the milk.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, so this, of course, there you cannot generalize everything, but this says a lot about like the general levels of trust which is there in Bihar. And also I of course spoke, this was only a few households, and then some of the households fast, it was ironic, but in some of the households they said that even this particular cow, they don't trust 100% because they think even this cow is injected. So
Yeah.
that was the level of trust, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just to share this story, I thought we should have this backdrop. So I'll just stop
No,
to
it's a
share.
great backdrop.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
see,
yeah,
you see
yeah,
three modes of transport there: a pedestrian,
yeah,
a
yeah,
bicycle, and a car.
yeah,
You
yeah,
also,
yeah,
okay, good. Let's continue.
yeah, yeah. So this is just a small anecdote, but then I also, of course, in the Yale vaccination study, in which I was involved in last year. So there I got the opportunity to interact with the households, and there was also a segment on trust, right? And we asked them questions about, like, do you trust the government? Do you trust like the institutions like police, the health workers? And do you trust your own family? Do you trust like the person from the other caste? So across all the indicators, like, of course, I don't have the exact data right now, but then based on my field experiences, wherever I spoke to, I found like the trust levels were atrociously low. It was extremely low across all the parameters, even within households. Right. So that was something which stuck with me. So maybe I'll carry this whole experience forward and like continue this analysis. And as you rightly put forward, that these meta-economic factors are responsible, and like there are many underlying reasons or root causes because of which these things are happening. But
Yeah.
yeah, this is something which really strikes me, and I have, at least as per my experiences, I have never observed such low levels of general trust
Okay.
in people. So yeah, so this is something which is uh, which stood out for me in my experiences.
All right. Uh,
Yeah.
anything else you want to add here?
Yeah. What
But
second, I think the more important thing is that I think the picture of Bihar that is portrayed outside of Bihar and also outside the world is, I think the landscape is changing. So I also had very positive experiences. I don't want to deny that, because uh, if you talk about law and order and crime, so my native home was also Bihar, by the way. So my grandfather and three generations also grew up in Patna. So I knew that, yeah, like this was a crime infested region. Like I think even in Patna, and also there were many Naxal affected areas. So now the crime rates are significantly low if you compare like the, I think the 1990s, when I
yeah.
think Lalu, yeah, it was at his peak, right? So that time the crime was very high. So now I think I also personally feel very safe stepping outside. Of course, I am not a female, so I don't know how the other perspective is, but at
Yeah.
least I can see the general levels of safety are much better now. Secondly, I feel that like even in very remote villages, you have electrification, you have like irrigation facilities, you have very good roads. So now from Patna to Bagha, which is like the Nepal border, you have fantastic roads which you
Yeah.
can take,
Yeah.
right? So the all these things were unheard of in Bihar.
Yeah.
From here to Muzaffarpur, it used to take like 5 to 6 hours to reach. Now you can reach there in 1.5 to 2 hours.
Good.
So I would say definitely a lot of progress has been made. So yeah, of course, maybe the trajectory has been dampened, but then we cannot deny the progress that has been made here. And I think to work in Bihar, what you have to be is an eternal optimist, I would say, because if you start pointing out like what is not working out, you would have a whole list.
Yeah.
But then I think what you that's what I learned here, that if you have to work here, you have to really hold on to these positives and just build on that.
Okay, let me
That's
ask
what
you
I
a question to which you may not have an answer, and
yeah
I certainly don't have the answer.
yeah
How much of this progress in Bihar, which is undeniable, is
yeah
due to forces outside Bihar? And how much of it is due to forces inside Bihar? Meaning that the roads are not a Bihari endeavor, no, they are done by, these roads must have been done by the union government. And the electrification, how much of it is a push from the center, as people call it, I call the union government, how much of it is a push from there, and how much of it is a push from the local state government? There's something to think about, because really in my book I make this point, and that
yeah
chief ministers are responsible. So I want to get a very broad sense from you, that do the people think that this is all due to the chief minister? I mean, I know some things are due to the chief minister, like
yeah
bicycles for girls. Okay, so going
yeah
to school, senior
yeah
girls, that's Nitish Kumar, that's the chief minister. But how
yeah
much of it is due to state and how much if it's due to center? That's something maybe you can speculate.
yeah yeah. As you rightly said, that there is no right answer to this, and maybe I won't be able to accurately answer this question. But uh, I so the sense in Bihar, at least if you talk to the people and ask them that like who is responsible for like all of this, they attribute this to Nitish Kumar, no doubt about it. Like
Okay,
they
all right,
attribute,
yeah,
right? And my sense is that, of course, eh, like the union government has to support these things, no doubt. But then internally, the institutions in Bihar, especially pre-Nitish Kumar era, were so crippled that yeah, so I'm just imagining a counterfactual scenario where
okay.
you don't have like the Nitish government, but the Lalu government continues, and you have all those institutions which were crippled, right? So in that counterfactual scenario, if you had the same initiatives by the center, I my sense is that definitely it won't have achieved the same results, because even now the I would say the institutions are not something utopic, because if you just Google the news on Bihar, there are so many bridges which collapse,
Yes,
right? There are so many,
right.
yeah, there are so many roads which were promised to be built but are not built. So my sense is that despite of the support from the union government, I don't think the trajectory would have been same.
Yeah,
That's my
the very
speculation.
famous incident of IIT engineer on the road project in Bihar, who
Yeah,
refused to be corrupt and was killed, was murdered, not killed, was murdered, because you don't want to siphon off the budget into bribes, okay,
yeah,
to
yeah,
powerful people, the mafia controlling road building and all. And
yeah,
that's why the quality was poor, because the money was not spent on the road, was spent on something else. And he was
yeah,
just murdered. And it was a sign that, listen, this is Bihar. You can't do it. Even if it is money from anywhere, you can't do it. So I
yeah,
forget who was the chief minister at that time. But this was a central initiative, union government building a
yeah,
highway, but
yeah,
progress is slow, per day kilometers built, and clear sign that, look, this is Bihar, okay?
yeah,
And they are giving us the money and we will take it, not you, not on the. So
yeah.
anyway, that's okay. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that. And also, I have one other perspective is that since because of this project, I have been also interacting with a lot of bureaucrats, both IAS and IPS officers, and I feel that lot goes behind the scenes there as well. And so this is of course like my future research interest. So I'm all like formulating one hypothesis with Professor Nishit Prakash on the same. But what I want to study is that whether like these individual bureaucrats, whether they can outdo the system or how much they are bound by the system. So again, building counterfactual worlds where you have, let's say, an efficient bureaucrat, but in a crippled system. On the other hand, a very inefficient or corrupt officer, but in a very good system. So in what magnitude can like the effects vary? So that's like a research topic for me also for later. But yeah, I think it's also worth noting in this case also that like there have been contributions from individual bureaucrats as well. If you talk about law and order, or these development initiatives, many things go behind the scenes as well, which yeah, I got to experience. So, yeah,
Okay,
just to put it.
we are about coming to the natural end of our time. You have
Yeah.
something special to say to anybody or to any group or your own experience, then we can end it. So let's hear from you some final words that you want to say, or you've been itching to say, but now you have a chance.
Ah, I mean, I really enjoyed this format firstly because what I expected was there would be a lot of interruptions, cross questions, cross examinations, but this was I really enjoyed talking to you. So thank you so much once again for inviting. And
Yeah.
I would say that this initiative in itself is very novel, and I hope that other young economists also join in, tune into this channel, and yeah, I just
It's
love
not,
this
it's,
format.
by the way, it's not confined to, for young people, it's not
Yeah,
confined to economists. For
yeah,
young
yeah,
people, it is open to any fields. Experts, yes, economic
yeah,
or broadly defined, like
yeah,
you are doing police and corruption and gender,
yeah,
broadly
yeah,
defined. But
yeah,
for young people, they can be of any interest, any field whatsoever. And yeah, I'm hoping to, as I said, I may not have said, I'm hoping that ultimately we will have enough desis on this. By desis, I mean people from South Asia,
yeah,
so that
yeah,
it is actually a platform for understanding each other. I'm not saying anything
yeah,
else. At least let's
yeah,
listen. Is Sri Lanka after the collapse of the economy? What are the young
yeah,
people thinking?
yeah,
What
yeah,
are we don't know. We honestly don't know.
yeah,
We read
yeah,
about Sri Lanka's macroeconomic crisis, this and that. But what is the effect on the young people? What are they thinking? What are the young people in Bhutan thinking? We know they don't use GDP, they use gross happiness index. But what are the young people thinking? Like
yeah,
you've gone out and said, this is what's happening in Bihar. What are they thinking? And so I have done two people from Bangladesh. I have
yeah,
some people coming up in Pakistan, Nepal, and hopefully Bhutan, Sri Lanka. These are the major countries. And of
yeah,
course, India, all parts of India. So
yeah,
that's the aim. And uh, I am hoping that 6 to 9 months from now, the enterprising young people will themselves find a way within the platform to have meetings, discussions, etc. No need for me. I'm just the facilitator. And then let them talk in the way we are talking now. Let's let them talk. Let's understand each other better. And so that we don't have to worry just about other countries. At least we know our neighborhood,
yeah,
which we don't, because we read the Western
yeah,
press. We read
yeah,
Western press. We don't know what's happening. Only
yeah,
the
yeah,
political news or sad economic news we get, but really what's happening in those countries, we need to understand. So that's
yeah, yeah,
ultimately the, so to speak, the social aim. And for me, it's a social enterprise. I hope to have a large enough scale so that I also get some of the ad money that YouTube
Yeah.
earns. Why not? I'm an economist. The proof of the
Yeah,
pudding
of
is
course.
when you have the pudding. If you don't have the pudding, there's no proof of the pudding.
Yeah.
So I need
Yeah.
to also, but right now it's just pro bono and just
Yeah.
one thought of mine. And I'm so glad you have validated the idea. We'll catch up with you in 1 year. Put it on your calendar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, you put it
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
calendar that you will contact me
Absolutely.
1 year
Yeah.
from
Would love
now
to. Would
and
love
tell
to.
me where you are and what you are doing.
Yeah.
I mean, I can be excused.
Yeah.
I'm old. I can't keep calendars, but you can.
Yeah.
Let
Yeah.
me know in
No,
1 year.
I think this was a fantastic experience for me also, because I really got to reflect and reflect on my journey. And usually, like in this hectic work environment, you don't take out time to do all of these things.
That's
So I
right.
would love to catch
Yeah,
up. Yeah.
you have to prepare yourself to talk,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that itself gives you an idea of what you have been doing and what you're
Yeah.
going to say, what's key, what's not key, and it's helpful. But for me, I'm learning every day. I'm hearing from you about Bihar. I hear from you about somebody else. So I'm getting free coaching. So,
Yeah.
so there's a quid pro quo because I don't know. I don't know anybody who's going to Bihar at your age and come back and talk about it. So I can pretend that I know, but I don't actually. So now I know a little bit more. So that's what I'm after too. All right, let's end it here and say bye.
Sure.
And we'll catch up
Thank
with you 1 year from now. Let's end the
Absolutely.
recording, okay?
Absolutely.
So let's say bye to everybody. I'll be back with another young person or an expert. Till then, bye-bye. And thank you, Shubro.
Thank you.